Hello and welcome, Inspired Podcast community. This is your new episode. My name is Caroline, and my today's guest is Leslie Gaudet. And I'm so happy that she said yes to our interview. How are you doing today?
I am doing fabulous. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you again. And I heard you are in Mexico right now. How exciting is this? Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah, it was a plan. It was planned. Well, actually, it wasn't supposed to happen until September of this year. But we were able to swing it a little bit sooner. And so we've been here just a little over a month.
Wow, that's exciting. Thank you so much for sharing. And I would love to introduce you to the audience, of course. So, you are a self care strategist for female entrepreneurs, specializing in systems that transform daily stress and constant overwhelm into clarity and calm. By optimizing how you use your time, you enhance your professional performance while also creating space for personal fulfillment, ensuring you're present for life's important moments, both in business and beyond. And my first question is, what inspired you to become a self care strategist, particularly for female entrepreneurs? And how did you identify the need for specialized systems to manage stress and overwhelm in this demographic?
Yeah, great question. Thank you so much. So, first of all, I have like an extensive background in the legal field. I've been a paralegal legal assistant for over 40 years. I still have a footprint in the area of law. Right now, I am my own business. I have a side business where I still support a team of lawyers and paralegals in California. It was from a company that I'd been working with full time, but I always knew that I wanted to transition into something else. I just didn't know what that something else would be. And I also knew that I really didn't feel like I had the time, the space, the energy to even do anything else because being in this industry, especially even in any really corporate environment, you're really super busy all the time. In fact, it feels like your life revolves around your job. At least that's how it was for me. And for almost 10 years, I've been thinking, like, what can I do differently? But I really stayed stuck in that place of not knowing. First, not knowing what it could be, and then first, and also secondly, not knowing how to even look for something different. It really came to a head for me back in mid-July, midsummer of 2017, and I recognized that I was burning out again. I faced many burnout sessions, or sorry, I had faced many burnout experiences. I didn't recognize them as burnout. I just knew that I wasn't feeling good. My life, I was really irritated. I felt like I was stressed all the time, overwhelmed. I had no life. And I knew that there were some things had to change. And that began with me first. Number one, saying to my husband, we need to make changes. That means let's do something different. And we decided to move. At the time, we were living in California. I was working full time. And I said, let's do something different. Let's move somewhere where, first of all, it's not so expensive because California is extremely expensive. So we decided on Las Vegas. And we then once we made a plan to do that. So within a few months, in March of 2018, we went and set up ourselves in Las Vegas, got everything together, and then I went back to work and gave them 2 weeks notice. That for me was liberating and scary at the same time because I was taking back a precious commodity, which is our time, so that I could have more of it for myself. But I also didn't know what I was going to do other than I had a little bit of an idea, which was I can still support this team online doing what I do. And I had, I've always been really resourceful that way. I found that there were so many different things I could do. I really actually, I guess, created my position because I told them, this is what I can do for you. And they said, okay. And so from March of 2018 is when I began my first entrepreneurial journey and started supporting this team of lawyers and paralegals. And I've been doing that ever since. That opened up my time to then get into self-development and to first of all learn about myself and to heal some parts of myself because I really felt as I said, I was burning out. I didn't feel good about my life. And once I started going and not only creating this space for myself, but finding all these different things that could help pour into me, I realized that even as being in corporate and then translating that into entrepreneurship, I was still repeating some of the mistakes that not necessarily, I guess, mistakes, but some of the patterns that I had created in the corporate world, because in the corporate world, unfortunately, I didn't have control of my time. I worked a lot of long hours, and I was doing it again in my entrepreneurial journey. And I realized that I needed to really take back that part of my life again and realize that it had to translate into, how do I use my time better? How do I use my energy better? And also, how do I have a fulfilling lifestyle? And so over the years, since December of 2018, when I decided to step into coaching, that's when I started started to take all of what I had learned and started pouring into other women and teaching them about emotional awareness and mindset. And then realizing in the last couple of years how I'm seeing so many women online talking about having low energy, not having the time, feeling burnt out, and realizing that there's all of these pieces that need to come together. And that's why I feel like having those systems in place that support you will give you that quality lifestyle, for you in business and in your personal life. So that's how I got here.
Oh, I love what you shared. Thank you so much. It was very insightful, so to say, and inspiring, of course, to give your 2 weeks notice and then to move to Las Vegas. Wow, how exciting is that? And now you are in Mexico. Yeah, thank you so much. Of course, I have another question for you. Let's see what this is. Can you walk us through a typical process you use when working with a client to transform their daily stress into a state of clarity and calm? And what are some common challenges you encounter and how do you address them?
Absolutely. So thank you for that question. So I think a lot of it begins with mindset work, and I'm sure that there's a lot of coaches that will agree that really it comes down to how we think and we feel, which is going to drive our actions and our results. And those thoughts and those our feelings and our thoughts really come from our experiences, which then we create what we're going to think about it, what we're going to decide it means. And so when we get through all of the, what I call it the emotional trigger cycle. So something triggers you and you're thinking a certain way, you're emotionally thinking, feeling a certain way, and then you're responding. That's your actions. Our results, then whatever happens, whether it's good or bad, depending on the experience, will then reinforce our belief. And so what I found is I always start with working with my clients on talking about who they are, who they were. Actually, we begin in the past, because I feel that there's clues in our past that will actually show us how we're showing up today. I know a lot of us feel, and myself included in the very beginning, before I started this work, was I always felt like, oh, those are things that I've gone through. I've been there, I've done that. And so I don't need to revisit it. But not recognizing that there were so many embedded belief systems that had been put into my subconscious because of my experiences, not realizing that they were influencing me. So I start that way, and I get to know my clients on a deeper level, and also helping them get to know themselves on a deeper level, and unpacking some things that they might have felt they had been through, they've forgotten about, and then not recognizing they're still influencing them. And so some of the common challenges, I know one of the things that I had was, one of my previous clients had told me, I use gratitude a lot. I feel gratitude is really important. If we focus on all of the good that we have, you can't focus on the good and the bad at the same time. So focusing on the good helps you to stay in a higher level vibration. And so one of the things that she had said to me was, I understand the word gratitude, but I don't understand how to apply it to myself. And so we really just started looking at, I said, well, let's start talking about your life. What do you have right now that you're so grateful for? And she started talking about her children, about her husband, about the life she was living, as far as some of the things that were going well. And I said, well, these are the things that can propel you forward. They can fuel your day. Having those memories, those good memories, the things that you're happy about, that you're grateful for, can really help you. And so that's one of the things that I typically do is I start them with mindset. We work through some of their limiting beliefs. I also start them with the what I don't want, because I truly feel, I know it's really super easy. If someone asks you, what do you want for your life? It's so hard most times because we start listing off the things, well, I don't want this and I don't want that, but we don't really focus in on what we do want. So I help them to unpack all of the things, what they don't want and why they don't want that, because of how it's impacting their life. And then starting to go through what they do want and how does that, how would that change their life, and getting them on that trajectory of looking for solutions or opportunities to make that happen. So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. And I loved how you used the word to zoom in. You zoom into what you don't want, and then I don't know if you write down or let them write down the complete opposite of what they don't want in order to find the what they want, the shopping list, as Bob Proctor calls it in his Thinking into Results. What do you really, really want? This was a question 3 years ago. I started my journey, and I know exactly what you mean by that. So thank you for sharing, and also that you do this with your clients, because I think this leads us towards our purpose, our goal, and this is so amazing. So I have to ask you now, if you set goals for yourself or intentions, and what is one of your goals for the next month?
Ooh, for the next 30 days? Wow, that's a great question. And I have, so I follow, been reading a book called The 12-Week Year. And what I love about this book is it's about setting the goals, but keeping them close. So you have 12 weeks. Your year is 12 weeks rather than 12 months. So you can have multiple years in a year, if you will. And so for me, one of the things that I really wanted to start focusing was building community, because I'm all about community as being a self-care tool. I feel that we are meant to go through life together, not alone, especially when you're stressed. There's a great book I'm reading called The 5 Resets by Dr. Aditi Nurakar, and she talks about stress, about how we're all going through stress, but it's like we're going through stress alone, but together. But we're not doing it together. We're going through it alone, but we're doing it together, and we're not asking for help. And so for me, I wanted to start building community, because I feel that community is such a huge self-care tool, that we can help each other through the good, through the bad, through if we need ideas, opportunities, to meet new people, just to build connections, so that we're not going through life alone. Even in the online space, you can still have those connections. I have a lot of great connections online. And so I feel like that for me is what's been my driving force. I have my 12-week plan, but for this month, it's really about creating those connections and building relationships. That's my goal for this, because I want to be connected with people, and it doesn't have to be from the level of you're going to be a client. It can be from, this person is a connection for me, a friend for me. They could be a referral partner. They could be someone I collaborate with. They can be someone that could turn into a client, or just, as I said, just a friendship. It's having no ulterior motive except to connect and really to build a relationship. So that's really been my goal for this month. One of them anyways.
Wow, I love that, as the goal to make connections. And what would you say is the difference between making connections and networking?
I mean, I don't think that really is a difference from making connections and networking, because I think even in networking, you can still connect with someone who could become a lifelong friend, or could become a referral partner, a client, or, anything like that, or even someone that you do business with for yourself. I think networking is about building relationships. in whatever capacity that turns out to be for you.
Wow. Thank you for clarifying because I love playing with words and finding out the differences between words because it's not English is not my mother language as you all hear. So thank you for explaining it to me. Sometimes I have questions and I have another question for you. Of course, it is how do you approach the balance between professional performance and personal fulfillment in your systems? Can you share a specific success story where optimizing time led to significant improvements in both areas for one of your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my clients, she actually was working as a PR manager in a firm in South Africa, and she was really unhappy because, again, it came down to who was controlling her time. And for her, it really was, she wasn't happy because there were a lot of other things that were going on with her life as far as like in business. And for her, it really came down to what did she really want her life to look like? She could still use her skill sets. And she decided, I love what I'm doing with my sister. I have a business with my sister. I love what I do with what I'm doing as a PR manager because I have great connections. She's won several awards. And so she was thinking like, well, how do I do this where I'm lifting myself up and continuously working towards goals that I have for myself. And so one of the things that I did with her, which I do with some of my clients, depending on whether they want to go through the exercise with me, is to find out what their mission statement is and then their vision statement, what their vision for their life is. And I have a series of questions that I take them through, but it's really to help them to see, number one, to start tapping into all of their milestones, because I think a lot of the time we have checklists that we mark as done and we move on and we forget to celebrate those moments. And some of them are small and some of them are quite large, but we just tend to we're looking for the next thing to complete. So I have them go through this, and then I help them. I create, once they send it back to me, I create their vision statement and their mission statement. And it helped for this one particular client to start seeing that she had these dreams that she'd forgotten about, based on all of these things that she had accomplished. And she decided, she made that decision to actually step out on her own. And so she ended up stepping out on her own and now has this business, which is thriving with her sister. And then she's also now managing her own PR management firm. And she's creating that space for herself as well. But it took her just being able to have someone that's not in it with her, but it actually came from the outside to see what she's going through, to help her to see all of the things that she's already accomplished, helping her to remind herself, you have all of the skill sets that you need, and you can decide whether you want to work for this company or work for another company or work for yourself. And so that was really fun. Another thing that I did with another client was having clarity around your time is important, but it's having clarity around how you use your time. That, for her, one of my clients, and it's another client in South Africa that I worked with, she has a baking business. She also has a lash care business. So she has two. And she has two young boys in school. She has a husband. And what she was doing was she was finding herself doing everything every single day. And I told her there has to be some structure. You need to have boundaries in place with your clients so that when they want a cake, they're not saying to you, I need a cake today. I need a cake. Maybe they need to give you 3 days notice. Having some kind of structure, because then she can actually structure her day. Like, this is what I need to do. Maybe I need to go get supplies. Maybe I have appointments here. Now I can put in some self-care. Now I can spend some time with my family. The other aspect, which I think is really important to note too, is that having the hard stop to your day. This was something that was something she was really not doing for herself. She would be working till like the wee hours of the morning because there was no boundaries and there was no structure. So when she started doing that, she started realizing, oh, I have time to actually unwind. I can spend time with my two young boys, getting to know how they're doing in school. I can spend time with my husband. I can do something for myself. And that's how I look at life is, I have that hard stop to my day. I make sure at the end of every day, typically it's usually around 6 p.m., but there's times I'll go until 7 p.m., but that is my cutoff time where there's no more social media. So I'm not online scrolling. There are no emails or text messages or voicemails. I'm not doing any of that. That time, it becomes sacred to me because it's, first of all, I'm unwinding, but I'm also spending time with my husband. It's just the two of us. We're having dinner together. We're spending time together. We're communicating. I've been married now over 28 years, and it's not obviously not easy, but if I put everything else first before him, then our relationship would not be thriving. And that's one of the reasons why I took back my time back in 2018, because again, I had no life, which meant I had no time even for my relationship.
Oh, yes. Thank you for sharing. I totally understand. And I also agree how important it is to structure the day, to have order, and to have like a schedule. For example, I was thinking about doing the podcasts. I could dedicate one day per week only doing this. And I love what you said about the notice with the K. Then she needs 1 or 3 days in advance to know about that, and then she can schedule this or put it in her calendar and know exactly when to do what. I love it. I love your example. Thank you so much. And of course, I
You're
have
welcome.
another question for you. Let's see.
Of course.
In your experience, what are the most common misconceptions female entrepreneurs have about self care, and how do you help them reframe their mindset to prioritize it without feeling guilty or compromising their business goals?
Yeah, one of the biggest ones is that it's selfish, or that I have so many other responsibilities, like especially if they're moms, maybe they're caregivers to their aging parents. They feel like everybody else is more important than themselves. They tend to say that they have self-care or some form of um, something on their calendar for themselves. But a lot of the time they don't honor it because everything else takes precedence, takes over. Their time is spent, whether it's with the kids, getting them ready for school, off to school, picking them up from school, to the lunches and the dinners and the homework and the bath time. And then there's no time at the end of the day for themselves. What I have found is that a lot of time people think that they think of the self-care as being mani-pedis, or getting their hair done, or going out for a nice lunch, or going on a mini vacation, buying themselves something nice. Those are all great. Those are still self-care because you're doing something for yourself. But for me, self-care goes a little deeper. It's more about making sure that you learn to say no, or actually learn to say yes to the right things. That comes with clarity and knowing what you want to get done. So maybe you have like a Friday goal. So knowing that when you have that Friday goal, you know how to structure your week. And that helps you to structure your time, and you're not going to use all of your time up doing busy work. Again, the saying is 20% of what you do provides 80% of your results. So if you're doing 100% of things, but you're only 20% of that is providing you 80% of your results, you have to look at it from that perspective. Looking at it from being able to say yes to the right things, I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, especially if they're in the beginning stages or they're building something bigger, is that they're saying yes to a lot of things that are really not in alignment with where they're at right now, because they're thinking so big picture that they become overwhelmed, and then they become burnt out because they're doing so much and they're not protecting their time and their energy. I also, another thing I'd like to also say is knowing your energy is whether you're a sprinter or a marathoner. So I'll explain what that means. A sprinter is someone who can actually do things in short bursts. So being able to, like, say, maybe work for an hour, but you can work intensely for that hour and you get things done in that hour. But then you need a break. You need a 15 to 20 minute, maybe 30-minute break, and that's okay. A marathoner, on the other hand, might be someone who can work 90 minutes to 2 hours and then maybe only need a 15-minute break. It's learning to know what your energy is like. I'm a sprinter. I understand that about myself. So I take those breaks. Sometimes they're longer breaks. One of the other things too, I think is really super important. I always say to people is two things. One, self-care should go on your calendar first, because that means you're honoring yourself, you're prioritizing yourself first. And then the second thing is making sure that whatever goes on your calendar is something that you can commit to, at least to try it for, not at least 30 days. I would say 30 days, because like any habit, you have to continuously do it for it to become ingrained as a habit in your lifestyle. But it has to be something you're willing to commit to. So I wouldn't say, like, if someone said, oh, uh, you must do a 2-hour morning routine. I think that doesn't work for everyone. But say someone believes that methodology and is trying to put in 2 hours every day, they're going to get stressed out about it. Instead, maybe they might say, well, in that 2-hour period, that person says to do 5 minutes of meditation or 15 minutes of meditation and half an hour of journaling. Well, maybe I can do 10 minutes of meditation and 5 minutes of journaling first thing in the morning, to start my day. It's finding what works for you, because I know that mine has changed over time. And that's okay, because it's what fits my lifestyle. And as long as I'm prioritizing myself, that means I'm taking care of me. So I show up as my best version. So I hope that was answering your question. I know I go off a little bit on a tangent, but yeah.
Absolutely. And the last sentences you said were, for me, the most important part about honoring yourself. Put yourself first. That means self-care. And then you can show up as your best version. I love that so much that you explained it. I never thought of this of it that way. Yes, thank you for clarifying. Now I have clarity. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
And I have to re-listen to this episode because there were so many nuggets in it. Of course, I have a last question for you. Let's say it is when people reach out to you, and please reach out to Leslie. She's amazing. She has information not many people have. Do you have special offers or services for the Inspired Podcast community?
Absolutely. So I have a couple of things. I have some free offers. I have a 21-day journal prompts. So it's really about getting 21 days of prompt journaling prompts through for 20, as I said, for 21 days, where it just takes you through like different self-care things, different self-care attitudes to help you to learn about yourself. It's really going to be about journaling. So I hope if you like journaling, if you like to really get to know yourself on a deeper level, this will be great for you. I also have I have what I it's called a holistic success self-care, I guess, audit, where I can take you through. You would answer a series of questions, and then I would give you back a video and written report about where your gaps and your strengths are, and room for improvement. Uncovering those hidden challenges you might have. So that is a paid offering, but I feel like it's really good sometimes to get someone else's perspective to help you, because again, we can be in the middle of something and not see the answer there. I feel like we all have the answers within ourselves, but it's behind a veil because we have those mental blocks. So when someone else can come in and say, oh, you said this, and I think this is, I'm understanding this is what you're saying, and that opens that person up to a different perspective, and they can say, yeah, oh, actually, yeah, I actually am feeling that way. A lot of the time, what I've found is that women feel like, again, as I said, self-care is a selfish thing. And they feel that sometimes it's not a necessary thing because everything else is more important, like their kids, their families, their jobs, their businesses. But like I said, I feel that when we take self-care to a level where we're learning to say no, or saying yes to the right things to fill our calendar. We're asking for help when we don't have all the answers, because that opens us up to new opportunities, perspectives, things that we might not have been thinking about. When we take those breaks during the day to help ourselves to recharge our brain, to refocus, to get that, to re-energize ourselves. When we have the hard stops to the end of our day so we can unwind, and we're not always working, but we're spending time with our families, with our communities, with our families, our friends, all of that. And when we set ourselves up for a good night's rest, those are just some of the self-care tools that I teach about, because those things, again, are going to pour into you so that you become your best self. And when you are your best self, not just for everybody else, but for yourself, you're going to show up differently. You're going to show up to your business differently. You're going to show up in your world differently. You're going to inspire others, even your family members. My goal is for self-care to become a table talk, I would say, or around, in homes where the families talk about it, parents with their children, about taking care of themselves so that they have a quality life their entire life, not when they're older and thinking about, oh, like, my life isn't what I want it to be, and now I'm looking for solutions. Start from the beginning, teaching our children, teaching our next generation that it's not selfish to take care of you. It's actually better for you to do that, because then you're showing up as that better version, and everyone around you and everything around you is going to benefit.
Oh, yes, that's so true. Thank you for explaining this and sharing. And now, as I said, I have a better understanding now about self-care, that it is also about saying yes to the right things and no to the things that doesn't serve, for example, the self-care or the purpose, right? We talked about
Mm-hmm.
that. Thank you so much. And now it's time for your last thought to the audience, please.
Wow. Yeah. So I know that we live in such a crazy world, because there's social media so we can see what everyone else is doing. My hope for you today is, if you are finding yourself in a place where you're doing all the things and you're not feeling good, like I was saying, I felt like my life revolved around my work instead of me having my work revolve around my life. Meaning, business is important, yes, work is important, yes, but it's not the most important. Quality of life, having friendships, good community, to having healthy families. I feel that if that's where you find yourself, the best thing for you to do is to step back and look at all the things that you are doing. Look at your calendar and see what you are saying yes to that may be draining you of your time and your energy. And then ask yourself, is this helping me to grow? Is it pushing me forward? Or am I just filling my time to look like I'm busy? Because if you're trying to build your business, if you are expanding your business, if you're trying to have quality of life and you're overwhelming your calendar, you're going to start burning out. I can speak from experience, because that's who I was in the very first 2 years of being a coach, because I didn't learn my own lessons that it's important to really take care of myself that way, and why the more of the modalities of self-care became more important to me, especially when it came to burnout, time and energy management, and just having that quality of life. So that's what I would say is, take a look at how you are managing your time, because most people think, last thing, most people think that money will buy them the time that they want. But really, it's how you structure your time that's going to allow you to have the time freedom that you're looking for.
That was amazing. Thank you so much. This was a
Thank
great
you.
episode. Yeah. Have a great day and see you in the next episode.
Thank